needs to be said. These people are corrupt and immoral as hell, because when people can't basically get clean water, clean air, clean food, we got children working under the age, handling hot grease, we done catapulted children back into poverty. I mean, what else is there? Talking about comparing him to the Almighty. Never, sir. Just your thoughts. I probably done gave your thoughts, my thoughts, and the thoughts of millions of others.
Yeah, absolutely. I think whenever Joe Biden wants to get something done, he has to call Joe Manchin. Like, if I want to go have a play date at my friend's house, it's like, I don't know, let me call my mom. With Biden, it's like, let me call my Manchin. Let me see if Joe Manchin says it's okay to pass this legislation that's very necessary for the country. And what does Joe Manchin do? Joe Manchin's like, listen, I got a check from these guys. They want to pollute the heck out of the water here. They want to put up a pipeline. So guess what? I'm either gonna go on network television and fearmonger and tell lies about how bad the debt ceiling is for the country and how much we need to cut spending, or you can put this in the bill and I'll agree to your bill. That's how these deals go down. Manchin is the de facto president. If he has the power to pass legislation like this, that's insane. No one man should have that power. We should just expose them for what they are, but they're all playing the same game. That's why no one ever exposes each other for how these deals go down.
Jessica, they answer to the same masters. And where, oh where, is the Progressive Caucus? There was a quote by Representative Jayapal saying that the White House needed to worry about where the progressives stand. The hell he does. He ain't got to worry about the progressives, because if he was concerned about the Congressional Progressive Caucus, it wouldn't be the Biden-McCarthy deal. If he was worried about what they might do, he ain't worried about them at all. So who really is fighting on behalf of Big Mama and Big Papa in hoods where they misunderstood all over this country? Riddle me that. This really is a shame. And could we not also not forget how the president betrayed the rail workers? Let's add that in there. So now you're betraying people in the Virginias with their water. But this right here, we can never forget it. On the rail strike, Biden turned his back on workers, imposing a contract via legislation that was rejected. I mean, just outright rejected by union rank and file, is a gift to rail barons. That's who we dealing with. So he's proven time and time again that he does not stand up for the everyday people in this country. We should not expect more for him on that. Woo, America, America, America. Lord have mercy. I ain't got no more papers to throw. Here we go. We go right on to President Donald J. Trump, former President Donald J. Trump, and Fox. The right wingers are infighting. They are fighting each other again, specifically after former White House Press Secretary McEnany said this. Kayleigh, watch this.
Big deal. And the DeSantis team would say, we just had polling come out that shows we closed the gap by 9 points since we announced in Iowa. Still, Trump's hugely ahead, but they say they're closing the gap. That's their argument.
Hugely.
Look, if you look at the polling now, it was Trump 34 in Iowa. It's now Trump 25.
Still a big lead.
Double digits.
Now that was Fox contributor and former White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany. She is fighting President Donald J. Trump. She was taking note of the polling between former President Trump and Governor Ron DeSantis. She was taking note of that polling. Both are running for president, as we already know. We're in trouble as a nation, but I digress. Now, the polling still leans in the way of Trump, but it wasn't exactly what President Donald J. Trump wanted to hear, because unless it praises him totally and tells him he's the best thing since sliced bread, he don't even want to deal with it. Now, shortly after her comments on Fox News, he put out this post on Truth Social, because he cannot help himself. Kayleigh Milquetoast. This was his press secretary, Lord have mercy. Milquetoast McEnany just gave out the wrong poll numbers. And how does he know they were wrong? Just ask him, he'll tell you. On Fox News, I am 34 points up on the sanctimonious, not 25 up, because 25 just won't do. 25 is not enough. Wow, 25 is great. It's not 34. She knew the numbers were corrected upwards. By this group that did the poll, the rhinos and globalists can have her. Fox News should only use real stars. Jessica, I just can't. I can't with this president. I can't with the infighting. But I'm telling you, he definitely is the king of petty, baby. He will go petty on you real quick.
That's his former press secretary. Like, she worked in his White House. It's so funny to see him just immediately, if someone says something slightly bad about him, slightly unfavorable, you're out, you're done. He doesn't care. It's hilarious to see someone just let their entire life be run by their ego and never think twice about it. But unfortunately, he has a ton of power. And it's like, what do we do with this cohort of folks who are running for president? Chris Christie, getting into the race now. We have DeSantis, we have Donald Trump. On our side, we got RFK Jr., we've got Marianne Williamson, we've got Joe Biden. I think we've got to put them all in a house, maybe in the Jersey Shore, and we'll run it reality TV show style, where there's challenges like negotiate with McCarthy on the debt ceiling or write a health care bill. And then every week, the American people votes their least favorite out, and then the winner becomes president. Because we've already had a president be a former reality TV show star. That's already a problem we have with our existing political process. I don't know, this might just let us lean into the insanity and get some entertainment out of it.
Well, Jessica, to be continued. We will be reporting on this many, many, many more times, but they are doing this thing. America, we got problems. Well, Jessica and I truly enjoyed our time with you today. Thank you for being with us. If you are catching our show video on demand, thank you for joining us. If you are here with us live, we appreciate you so very much. Now, you know what I want you to do about this time. I always, no matter what is happening in your life, I want you to keep the faith. You gotta all marry that faith with some fight, baby. Until next time.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the watch list. I'm JR Jackson. I'm under the weather, which is why I look very different. JR's out again today. You're stuck with me, Jessica Burbank, and Jordan Uhl. For the first time, this duo is hosting together. Very exciting. Jordan Uhl's a Rebel HQ contributor. How are you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing well, Jessica. How are you?
I'm doing well. I got that dog in me. We've got some good news to cover. Are you ready to get into it?
I'm so ready.
Amazing. All right, everybody, watch this.
Plan to secure the border on day one of my new term in office. I will sign an executive order making clear to federal agencies that under the correct interpretation of the law, going forward, the future children of illegal aliens will not receive automatic US citizenship.
All right, so Trump has proposed that first day in office, he's gonna violate the Constitution. Just forget the 14th Amendment. We don't need it anymore. So he gave some more details on his plan to just scrap rights that are guaranteed by the United States Constitution again. So this comes to the policy of immigration. When it comes to birthright, this is what we've got to work with. Let's take a look.
Joe Biden has launched an illegal foreign invasion of our country, allowing a record number of illegal aliens to storm across our borders. From all over the world they came. All of their future children will become automatic US citizens. Can you imagine? They'll be eligible for welfare, taxpayer-funded health care, the right to vote, chain migration, and countless other government benefits, many of which will also profit the illegal alien parents. This policy is a reward for breaking the laws of the United States and is obviously a magnet helping draw the flood of illegals across our borders. They come by the millions and millions and millions. They come from mental institutions. They come from jails, prisoners, some of the toughest, meanest people you'll ever see. The United States is among the only countries in the world that says that even if neither parent is a citizen nor even lawfully in the country, their future children are automatic citizens the moment the parents trespass onto our soil. As has been laid out by many scholars, this current policy is based on a historical myth.
Conservatives have argued that the 14th Amendment was only intended to be used for freed slaves to grant them full citizenship. But the language of the 14th Amendment is broad in determining citizenship. Here's reporting from the New Republic. The 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868 to help guarantee rights to Black Americans after the end of slavery. The measure grants citizenship to anyone, quote, born or naturalized in the United States, and guarantees them, quote, equal protection under the laws. Now, the process to circumvent the 14th Amendment, it's a difficult one, given that it would need to be amended. Trump has entertained ending birthright citizenship back in 2018 when he was president, 2 years into his term. He did that in an Axios interview with Jonathan Swan. Let's watch from that interview.
On immigration, some legal scholars believe you can get rid of birthright citizenship without changing the Constitution.
With an executive order.
Exactly.
Right.
Have you thought about that?
Yes.
Tell me more.
It was always told to me that you needed a constitutional amendment.
Right.
Guess
14th
what?
Amendment.
You don't.
You don't.
Number one, you don't need that. Number two,
I mean, that's in dispute.
You could definitely
That's very much in dispute.
Well, you can definitely do it with an act of Congress, but now they're saying I can do it just with an executive order.
Okay, so the problem with the executive order is that it would be challenged in court. So here's reporting more from the New Republic on this. The president does not have the power to unilaterally overturn a constitutional amendment. Legal experts warned him of this at the time. While some conservative scholars argue that the 14th Amendment only refers to children born in the United States to lawful permanent residents, the general consensus is that you can't just stop applying that part of the law. Meanwhile, the actual process to amend the Constitution is lengthy and complicated. One of the many steps requires a 2/3 vote from both the House and the Senate, an unlikely event given how divided Congress has become. So Trump's proposal is just another empty promise. That interview is one of the most informal interviews with the president that I have ever seen. But Donald Trump doesn't seem to care much about how things go in the court of law in the United States, given the judges that he's appointed. He's not too concerned about what happens in the courts because he's pretty confident, I'm sure, that if things escalate to the Supreme Court of the United States, things will go his way. I'm almost positive that's why he's so confident in saying that day one, he's gonna get rid of birthright. Jordan, I wanna bring you in here. What do you make of Trump's take on this?
He's trying to replicate his 2016 campaign. Do you remember how that started? That was singling out immigrants, using similar words. The vernacular here isn't too dissimilar from his opening launch speech at Trump Tower in 2015. He talked about immigrants being rapists and criminals, and we know that's not true. That type of crime is prevalent to varying extents in every demographic group. But he was trying to single out immigrants because he knew that would be a wedge issue, and he knew singling out a marginalized group would help fuel this type of spiteful politics that Republicans really love to celebrate. They want to humiliate, trigger, own their enemy, their political enemy. And in his campaign, a centerpiece of that was immigrants. And now he's got DeSantis kind of nipping at his heels, but almost doing the same thing on the culture war front that Trump did. So he needs to differentiate himself, and he's trying to just revert back to 2016 because he hopes that's going to be a successful strategy. But that jingoism in his language and in the conservative base is really alarming because they're talking about people who just want to come here in search of a better life in dehumanizing terms. Notice the entire time he talked about these people, he didn't use that word at all. It was migrants, it was criminals, it was anything to make the conservative listener see them as subhuman, and that's extremely dangerous.
I think the analogy that they always make about migrants coming into the United States and taking our welfare, social safety net, depending on our public programs. They never talk about the fact that many migrants, if working in the United States, actually pay taxes. That is true. If you talk to conservatives about that, they're like, what? They don't pay taxes. Yes, they do. An analogy also beyond that would just be they're productive members of our economy. They're coming here to work and start a life. And so an analogy I might use is like, let's imagine a garden, a community garden. If someone showed up at the end of the season and just started picking fruits and vegetables and eating them, you'd be like, what the heck? Like those aren't yours. You didn't help us grow them. But if someone comes every day and waters the plants and tills the soil, you'd be like, yeah, of course, he should have some of the tomatoes we all made. Like, that's the analogy we have with migration. These folks are productive members of our economy. They come here, they do work. They should receive the full benefits of being a working member of our society. But because they don't want to address the real root problems that cause scarcity and lead people to be susceptible to this kind of fear mongering, they have to make somebody else the enemy. And time over, they've decided, because it has real racist roots, that it's just going to be migrants. It's going to be people who look different from you, and you should be very afraid of the world changing and be afraid of scarcity caused by these folks. And so, yeah, I agree. He's running the same playbook. He's just playing the hits. He's like, well, this worked the first time around. Let's go back to that, because clearly running on the platform, Keep America Great, didn't work, because it seems he didn't really do that.
No, not at all. Also, on the gardening analogy, the person who's coming along and picking the produce at the end of the season is just the capitalist class. That's the people who benefit from all of the work everyone else put in. So sort of complete that thought. But on the politically powerless front, it's immigrants, it's members of the LGBTQIA plus community. We're just about to go into Pride Month, and you're going to see new levels of unhinged from the right. They've already been, priming the pump with the Target outrage, now Chick-fil-A because they hired a diversity officer, Milk-Bone because they have a pride-themed tub of dog treats, Bud Light because they did one sponsored post with a trans person, one single post with a trans person. We're going to see just really vicious and vile attacks specifically toward the trans community for the next month, because this is what the right does. Like you said, they single out politically powerless groups, marginalized people in this country, and attack them because it makes them feel better about themselves. What they really need to do is think about why they feel so alienated, why they feel so vulnerable. Why is a politically powerless class a threat to them, their financial security, their stability in life? It's not these groups. It's to go back to your farming analogy, it's the capitalist class, it's the bosses, it's the CEOs, it is the investors, the people who are trying to make every single last penny they can off of your labor and pit you against one another so you're too distracted to realize that.
Yeah, I'm not concerned at all about the rainbow bones making my dog gay. When I vote for president of the United States, I'm not thinking, how will they regulate the rainbows in advertisements during the month of June? You should be thinking about, how am I doing economically? How does that compare to how my parents were doing economically, or even how I was doing a few years ago, or how I felt about the economy? Because we always tell this false story that the US government is independent of the free market. The economy and the government are not intertwined. It couldn't be further from the truth, especially right now, when you have the Federal Reserve intentionally raising interest rates with the goal of making people unemployed. The current report from the Fed says by the end of the year, according to their projections, if they hit their mark, 2 additional million people should be unemployed. They are making economic conditions that put working people out of jobs. Why? Because then you will be more willing to work for longer hours and take jobs for lower wages and less benefits, which means that the companies and corporations you work for will have higher profits and you'll have a harder time paying your bills. There will be other people who can't pay their bills at all because they're entirely out of work. So you're gonna take whatever job you can get. You're more easily exploited, which means our members of Congress, which have share in those corporations, are gonna get those returns from the profits made off of you getting paid less and them getting more of a cut of that revenue. Are they paid to represent you? Yeah, but they're paid far more by lobbyists and from the returns to shareholders. That's who they work for. And so when you're thinking about who to vote for president, you got to vote for someone who's going to stand up to that and fix that. They have the power to do that. We don't have the power to change that. We can form unions at work, but at the end of the day, if we have so many people voting to join unions and then the NLRB doesn't have enough resources to legitimize those unions and force companies to the bargaining table when unions are legitimately formed, we're in a condition where we have no choice but to elect people into government who are going to stand up for working people. And it's very clear, if you're more worried about rainbow milk bones than what's going on in our economy, that you're just not the guy to do that. Any last thoughts on this, Jordan?
I think you summed it up perfectly. That is, I know a lot of people check out around elections. I've been guilty of it too. It's very demoralizing when you see time after time, cycle after cycle, being told this is the most important election of your life, and then nothing changes. The regulatory state and the ability of a Democratic president, a pro-labor president, to shape, to appoint people to the NLRB, and the impact that's had. And we're seeing that right now. The past couple of years since Biden has taken control of the NLRB. We've seen changes in how they handle union drives, union elections, investigating companies that break the law to just try to stop these union drives. That's one tangible way you can change working conditions in this country. So I would dissuade people from being too cynical around electoralism as a means for reform in this country.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We're gonna move to some drama on Fox News. Let's watch this.
But I think you're going to see this all come to head here in Iowa, and then Thursday, of course, it's going to be a big deal. And the DeSantis team would say, we just had polling come out that shows we closed the gap by 9 points since we announced in Iowa. Still, Trump's hugely ahead, but they say they're closing the gap. That's their argument.
Hugely.
Look, if you look at the polling now, it was Trump 34 in Iowa. It's now Trump 25.
Still a big lead.
Double digits.
Still a very big lead. Kayleigh, thank you so much.
Interesting.
You might think there's nothing wrong with that video. That's just usual Fox News stuff. It's Jesse Waters and former Trump press secretary Kayleigh McEnany. They were discussing Ron DeSantis's and Trump's polling numbers, but apparently McEnany's polling numbers were a bit off, and Trump decided he needed to bring the truth on Truth Social. Here's what he posted. Kayleigh Milquetoast McEnany gave out wrong polling numbers on Fox News. I am 34 points up on DeSanctimonious, not 25 up, While 25 is great, it's not 34. Yeah, it's a difference of about 9, buddy. She knew the number was corrected upwards by the group that did that poll. The rhinos and globalists can have her. Fox News should only use real, capital S, stars. Once again, our 45th president and 2024 presidential candidate proves that he can't spell. It's actually spelled milk toast with a Q-U-E. So yeah, can't even get the burn right. I also love how he chooses to capitalize random things in his truths. I think he's really the one writing those truths rather. So Trump and McEnany, they just haven't been buddy-buddy lately. Let's remember this is someone who served in his administration, in his White House as the press secretary. Here's some reporting from Mediate on the exchange between these two. In November, McEnany encouraged Trump to put his presidential campaign, quote, on pause. While earlier this month, Trump accused McEnany of speaking favorably about DeSanctimonious. How dare she? According to reports, McEnany tried to, quote, actively avoid Trump during his 2020 election defeat because he wanted her to talk about Dominion. Trump has lashed out at many of his former staffers in the aftermath of his 2020 defeat to President Joe Biden and recently attacked his former chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, calling him, quote, a born loser and, quote, perhaps the dumbest person. All right, so since Tucker has left Fox News, Trump seemingly hates most of the hosts on the network, including his former press secretary, especially when they talk about polling. Trump posted this on Truth Social as well, May 22nd. Laura Ingraham on Fox News just did a hit piece on me. There go her ratings, showing some polls which indicate Ron DeSanctimonious may do better against Biden than I would, when actually polls show that I do much better against Biden than, quote, Rob. The poll you're looking at now, which has me doing far better than Crooked Joe, was just put out by Fox, I'm sure unhappily. I'm also leading DeSanctis by over 40 points in primary voting. Watch Greg Kelly on Newsmax at 10 p.m. Of course, he has to correct it with the disclaimer about what they're reporting on other networks without ever linking to the polls he's referencing. So a couple of hours after he posted, McEnany welcomed Roy and Representative Byron Donalds, who's a Republican out of Florida, to the Ingraham angle to discuss the debt ceiling deal struck by President Joe Biden and Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy. Both Roy and Donalds oppose this legislation, which they say doesn't do enough to rein in spending. So that's a terrible reason to oppose the legislation. But sadly for McEnany, the milk toast thing is going to stick with her for a bit. Let's watch.
What is the realistic alternative to this? Because I understand we wouldn't formally default. We can pay the interest on our debt, but our debt could be downgraded and that could be catastrophic. So what is the realistic alternative to this deal?
Well, thanks, Kayleigh. First of all, everything that we're seeing out of the bill that was put forward, this deal, this hatch this weekend, is pretty milquetoast, if that word might mean something to you.
Yikes. So a lot of conservatives have been coming to the defense of McEnany and have bashed Trump for his comments toward her. Brian Kilmeade said this on his program.
He flies off the handle. For example, attacking Kayleigh McEnany is insane. She's one of the best press secretaries ever. Dana Perino, as Ari Fleischer are watching too. Just saying, she was fantastic. But she's an analyst now. She doesn't work for any campaign.
Folks also took to Twitter to come to her defense. We had Britt Hume tweet, "Imagine being so immature as to attack your former press secretary, who is nothing if not loyal, for allegedly misquoting a poll number." Then Chad Prather, "This is pathetic. I don't care who you are. This is unacceptable and unhinged. Kayleigh McEnany took bullets for this man. We have a guy in the White House destroying the country and you go after her? It's becoming an absolute joke." Reporting from Mediate, former Trump legal advisor Jenna Ellis also reacted to Trump's post, tweeting, I will simply leave this here for when people ask why I and many others didn't return for 2024. So I don't know if if this is a crisis. I think everybody expected Trump to completely pick new folks because he put everybody in a really bad situation when he said either you say the election was rigged or I disown you as someone in my political cahoots with me. Jordan, what do you make of all of this?
Well, the old saying goes, if you want a friend in Washington, you get a dog. And you're seeing that here. Like all the rats have jumped ship because, like you say, he put these people in an impossible situation. It would jeopardize their further career prospects, and he's not going to be paying them the rest of their lives. They need something. They need some landing pad, and attaching themselves to him in January 6th and the conspiracies around the election wouldn't help them. But what you're seeing is him lashing out because he was so used to Fox and every conservative pundit for the last several years defending and justifying everything he did. No matter how asinine, they would run to his defense and justify it, no matter how ludicrous. And now they're not so sure they want to be tied to him, or for Fox, make their entire brand a pro-Trump outlet. And he can't handle that because this is a guy who gets most of his validation through the TV. And he loves watching his programs and he loves tweeting about his programs. I'm sorry, posting truths, if that's what it's called, which is a really ridiculous name for a post. But he can't handle that people who he once saw as sycophants aren't as supportive as they were. And it's really funny to watch him melt down over innocent mistakes.
Yeah, seriously. I think he's so nervous about losing his position as the leader of the Republican Party, which I would argue he's already lost. The polling numbers look good, but I feel like primaries are so much more about how much you can appeal to the establishment of the party because they have so much say over how things go in primary elections. The precedent that was set after 2016 by the Bernie and Hillary situation, where you had Hillary Clinton essentially with her hand in the purse. I mean, she provided the purse for the DNC. That was a huge problem. But then she was using the victory fund for her primary election. Why do we think that happened? Would that have happened if Bernie had the cash on hand to bail out the debt of the DNC? I don't think so, because the establishment doesn't like outsider populist candidates. They like people like Hillary Clinton. They like people like Ron DeSantis, who is unhinged and certainly fascist, but he's someone that will have that political professionalism and play by the rules of the game. That's something that the establishment loves because they write the rules of the game. And so having the establishment like you gives you the upper hand in a primary contest. Why? It's not really about who's the most popular, because as established, when people question the legality of what went down in 2016, it's party business. It's not governed by election law. So a primary isn't really about who's the most popular among the public anyway. To me, I look at who's playing the game to make the establishment like them and the loyal party voters like them enough to be tricked into thinking they're the winnable option as a candidate. People love picking winners, but also they really have no choice given how parties govern their primary elections. Jordy, I want your thoughts on that. How do you feel about that take? Because I'm still going back and forth on it.
Well, I mean, I think all of this is kind of moot, because if he does emerge as the front runner and just cleans up in the primaries, all of these people, because they have no ideological consistency, there are very few people who would actually just refuse to back him if he's the candidate. They would just turn back and support him and justify everything he does again. It's very frustrating as people, and I know you are, and I know a lot of the viewers are, who are driven by ideology. And that's why people backed candidates like Sanders, because of the consistency in their ideology and in their time in Congress and what they stand for and their legislation. You don't see that on the right as much. And it's really, I don't know, it's confusing, it's frustrating, and especially when they are successful, it's demoralizing, because these are people who just jump back and forth between varying people or positions, whatever suits them best in that moment. And I don't know. I don't know what it's gonna look like.
Yeah, we're just here to try and make sense of it all, but sometimes it just has to be entertaining watching these folks go back and forth with each other. Really interested to hear what you all have to say. We're gonna be reading comments when we get back right after this break.
All right, welcome to the Young Turks special election day. Same coverage, drop it!
An amazing power panel.
Look at this panel! You want to talk about power?
It's like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong. We spun a revolution! Yes, another one!
Aren't you excited?
Wow. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, everybody! Yay!
You know, this is where it started in a lot of ways.
Why is he lying? Because these are acts that you can commit with impunity.
Most of us are usually in boxer shorts underneath.
I went with the pants today.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
We have to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right.
They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care. You don't see a lot of news coverage in the mainstream media of the peaceful Black Lives Matter protests that happened throughout the country.
Black Americans are hurting. Minorities in this country are hurting.
We always talk about starting from the bottom up, but the problem is the bottom up is always the least amount of power. No one cares about them, and until someone actually cares about them, then we'll do something about it.
Please, for God's sake, America, understand, acknowledge, and work towards getting to a new reality where Black lives actually matter.
Welcome back to the watch list. It's Jess and Jorby here with you, and a moderator, Dana Manning, who's the Guardian Angel Mod Squad Dragon, who said, and Wednesday is still double dose day, but today it's a double dose of the Burbank. And we also get the added treat of recently engaged Jordan Uhl, with also the hard eyes emoji. Congratulations on your engagement again, Jordan.
Thank you.
It was a whole thing. Lynn says Jordan Uhl will always be one of my favorite co-hosts. Why did they put Uhl in? Am I saying your name wrong?
No, you're saying it right. I don't know what they did.
They said Jordan Uhl. They don't believe your identity, if that even is your last name. Someone else says Sexy Speed Racer. Very important to include the name. It's not just somebody, it's Sexy Speed Racer. Said to get well soon, JR. I agree. On Twitch, someone said, hello, JR, you look super cute today. You guys are always doing this with me and JR. Someone said, more Burbank and Jorbs. Them Runny Eggs said, I don't know if I can say that word. Darn it, Jess. I was trying to sell you to the right, but now you drop facts. They will never accept that. True. The Electricians on TYT say, great hosting combo. Amazing. Couldn't agree more. And we've got more news to break down for you. Watch this.
Now to an alarming development in Iowa after the partial collapse of that apartment building in the city of Davenport on Sunday. A survivor was found a full day after the collapse. Now that's the good news, but it happened after officials say the building was empty and ready to be demolished. Now people are wondering if others may still be trapped inside.
All right, so you heard that right. It's a building set to be demolished, but it just collapsed in a predominantly black neighborhood, in a predominantly black apartment complex, rather, in Davenport, Iowa. So far, 8 people have been rescued, but 5 still remain missing, which has put the demolition on hold for now. Breakthrough News provided on-the-ground coverage of what's happened so far there in Davenport and the response from many in the community actually protesting the demolition. Let's watch.
Protesters rallied around a partially collapsed apartment complex in Davenport, Iowa, as city officials prepared to demolish it. Residents say 2 people are still unaccounted for, Ryan Hitchcock and Brandon Colvin, but the city plans to move forward with the demolition anyway. Previously, city officials claimed there were no signs of life left in the building and prepared to send in demo crews until resident Lisa Brooks was seen waving from a 4th-floor window.
National media is saying what a great job they did finding everybody, and it's not the truth. They said that there are no injuries. They had to have their leg cut off for them to get them out of this building. Is that not an injury?
Residents are saying that what they're calling a failed rescue calls attention to the city's apparent disinterest in ensuring the safety of its black residents as it prepares to potentially leave tenants in the rubble. Activists say that the lack of housing protections is what led to this disaster. As of 2023, Iowa ranked 4th worst in public housing inspections in the U.S. The apartment building, which was constructed in 1906, despite showing early signs of collapse, was assessed not by a city department, but by a private engineering firm hired by the property owner.
The rescue crew still has not found the 5 folks who are still missing, and you heard that right. They're trying to move forward with the demolition. So the details about why this building initially collapsed, aside from just being very old and a lack of housing repairs, is still undetermined. So we have reporting from CNN. The cause of the Davenport collapse has not been determined, but the building's owner had current permits for repairs to the exterior wall. Officials said that owner has been served with a demolition order, Davenport officials said on Monday. So the city has sought to fine the owner of the apartment, Andrew Wold, for only $300. Andrew Wold, the owner of the apartment building at 324 Main Street that collapsed on Sunday, has been fined $300 and court fees for not keeping the building safe and sanitary. The city of Davenport accuses Wold and his business, Davenport Hotel LLC, of not keeping the building in, quote, safe, sanitary, and structurally sound condition on the date of the collapse. Of the 5 that have been found, or was it 8 that have been found? We're gonna check with the producers in a second. 2 have the identity, or 2 of those 5, their identities have been confirmed. So Brandon Colvin and Ryan Hitchcock are 2 that are still believed to be trapped inside. Their photos are right there. And here's a tweet from Leah Goodrich. She said, listen up, this is Brian Colvin and Ryan Hitchcock. They are both tenants believed to still be in the building. I need us all to lift them up in prayer. And if you don't believe in that, then send good vibes and get them out. So those are their faces. That's the tweet from Leah. The mother of Ryan Hitchcock was in an interview, and she said she desperately wants her son to be saved from the rubble. Let's watch.
News, or somebody probably told me, but I didn't know for a while.
So, as I understand it, his cell phone.
I don't know where his cell phone is or really anything because I never got to talk to him. As far as I know, he's under the rubble still. I want him to get him out.
All right, so those are the 2 folks that are still missing that were in that photo. Iowa officials have reported that the 5 that are missing still haven't been found. Protests are ongoing to stop the demolition from happening. They want to move forward with this demolition in a building in Davenport, Iowa, of predominantly black folks. The owner, who should have been responsible for the repairs, is only being asked to pay $300 plus court fees. This is a ridiculous situation. I've been in Davenport, Iowa. It's one of the few parts of the Midwest that does have a large Latino and a large black population. Iowa being 4th in the country for public housing, I think tells us a lot about why something like this might happen. Jordan, I want to bring you in here. What are your thoughts on the situation?
It's difficult. It's difficult to think about, and it's frustrating because we see these issues in our communities nationwide. There was an apartment fire just north of DC a couple months ago, and the building that this fire took place in, it displaced hundreds of people. It killed 1 woman just from smoke inhalation and injured 17. And that building, because they were in a county that didn't require these buildings to have sprinklers until 2030, because real estate groups and landlords groups lobbied against a county protocol, They prolonged this requirement by like 2 decades. And in response to that, in a blue state in Maryland, right after this incident, the state legislature pushed for a requirement for all buildings to have sprinklers. But then they killed it. It didn't pass. So even in blue states, you still see real estate groups and landlord groups influence legislation, influence regulations to help them affect their bottom line. It would cost them money to put sprinklers in a lot of these buildings, and they don't want to do that because they want to make more money. But then people are left in unsafe situations. And you're seeing that here in Iowa, you're seeing it in the DC area, you're seeing it nationwide. People need a safe place to live. And because we've turned housing into a commodity and in some respects, an investment vehicle, more and more people see that as an unrealistic prospect. And thousands, maybe millions of people are in unsafe situations nationwide because of greed.
I think it's exactly right. To break it down to that extent, that's what we're dealing with here. The commodification of housing has put us in this kind of a situation. There's of course the racial element here, where this was a predominantly Black apartment complex that has a lot to do with how much attention is given to repairs. We live in a society that is extremely racist at the systemic level, Iowa included, which was a state that fought with the Union Army. Yet you'll see all over the state of Iowa Confederate flags because there's a cultural identification with the Confederacy and with the South there. There's a lot of racist sentiment in Iowa. We see them increasingly voting for far-right candidates and moving further to the right, moving more towards voting for Trump from 2016 voting trends to 2020. It's really scary. And when we talk about housing and how we could provide housing for everyone if we wanted to, and it's a choice not to, it kind of sounds like maybe that's true, but economically someone really smart has done the math, and that's actually not how it works. People who are developers have said, well, I get that you're saying that you want everyone to have a home, but things are really complicated with the math, and so everyone can't have a home. It's not like that at all whatsoever. The amount that we waste as a country, the amount of vacant units we have is so vast compared to the people who are currently unhoused or living in living conditions that are not standard, that are not necessary to live in, whether they're living in a home that's decrepit and they have a slumlord, or they're one of the many people that have decided to move in with roommates when they would otherwise rather be living alone, where you have multiple people living in bedrooms. So the housing crisis is far beyond just the amount of people who are currently experiencing homelessness. It's a lot bigger than that. When you think about developers whose only goal is to make more money, you have, on one hand, people who just want a place to sleep and a roof over their head. And on the other hand, you have people who have a bunch of money and want to make more money off of it. What do you prioritize? In our economy, it's the people who want to make more money. It's developers who want to buy apartment complexes in cash and get rent from all of those renters on a monthly basis. And folks who are struggling to afford their bills on a minimum wage job, who are at risk of homelessness if they don't make their rent. It's unnecessary when we provide the amount of resources and goods and services that we do as an economy for us to be wasting things and forcing people to live on the street just because people who want to make passive income off of being landlords, they want to get richer. That's who's benefiting in our economic setup. Jordy, any last thoughts on this before we move on?
There was a story in the Wall Street Journal last week about how these people who are trying to put their money in real estate and apartment complexes as an investment tool, they're seeing that backfire. They're seeing potentially a housing bubble burst and a rental bubble burst. And there was a quote from someone who led one of these investment schemes, would take people's money and then go buy properties and they would get returns on their investment. He said he got into it because he was tired of working for his money every day. And I thought that was a perfect quote that really exemplified just how being a landlord is not a real job. And I couldn't wish them anything but the worst.
Yeah, we have work requirements for people trying to get food stamps. No work requirements for landlords and capital investors Maybe there should be. Where are the work requirements for the people exploiting all of our labor and leeching off of our work? I would love to know. I want to make sure we're clear on those numbers there that got a little mixed up. So the situation at the Davenport apartment complex from our producers, we've got 8 that have been found, 5 that are believed to still be there. And of those 5, we know the identities of 2. So really a sad situation in Davenport. Our hearts go out to the families there and those who have loved ones who are missing. And thanks to the protesters for being in the street, doing the good work and fighting the good fight. We're gonna get to do a story now that I think Jorby would really like because it's about gaming and the gamers. You ready to get into this, Jordy?
Yeah.
All right, let's watch.
Same way you watch a football match, you can hear the crowd, everyone's cheering the team on, you make friends, these are people you talk to, you play with online. It's all about community, it's being part of something that you're incredibly passionate about.
Running for Barrett though right now, trying to establish vision control and force NKD to take that ambition. Ambition steals the Elder Dragon. He gets away. They're also lives. This is a 4-drake Elder Dragon. He lives. Ambition saves the game once again.
So that was an older video from the League of Legends YouTube channel that focused a lot on the struggle the players and the organization have had to go through to get esports recognized as something larger than just gaming. Well, now the players are making history again. Reporting from Passion Fruit on Monday, professional League of Legends players in the North American League Championship Series, the LCS, voted to walk out just ahead of their summer season, beginning this Thursday. The vote, which was in response to a highly criticized recent rule change from developer Riot Games to no longer force franchise teams to field an amateur roster and allow younger players a shot at breaking into the scene. So here's some more information about the vote.
Within 5 minutes of the 8:30 start time, they had every player in the LA time zone, so where this meeting was taking place, on the call. They had expected 52 players, and they had 100% attendance from those 52 players. During the meeting, reportedly, 10 different players spoke up to voice why it was so important to them. These players included veteran stars all the way to the most vulnerable positions and everything in between, all asking and calling on their other players to join in a vote of yes for the lockout. I don't know the final number on this, but I will say that within less than 60 minutes of the meeting started, the LCSPA put out a statement saying that they had overwhelmingly voted yes.
We're gonna bring in some context here about what's going on with the LCS. Here's a statement from the LCS Players Association. They posted this on Twitter. The walkout vote has overwhelmingly passed. This is not a decision LCS players have come to lightly. Countless discussions and debates were held between all LCS players in the week leading to this historic vote. One thing is clear from those conversations. Our players want to play and compete above all else. Joining hands to put competition aside is a testament to the significance and urgency of the issues at hand. We stand at an impasse because actions were taken by Riot without prior communication or discussion with LCS players. The LCSPA sincerely hopes Riot will avert this walkout by joining us in the coming days to have open and transparent discussions so that we can forge collaborative solutions to ensure the best futures for the LCS and the NACL. So here's a little context of the League of Legends and the LCS. Reporting from Passion Fruit again. League of Legends is a PC game developed by Riot Games where the goal is to join a team of 4 other players to destroy an enemy base using one of those 163 unique champions. You control characters like magical archers, giant polar bears, or chain-wielding mages. Though it was released in 2009, the game is still incredibly popular, boasting around 150 million players in the past month, according to Active Player. The LCS was created in 2013, offering a fully professional ring for the game's top players to compete in. The LCS scene quickly grew with high stake tournaments pulling in millions of viewers and teams pulling in sponsorships from brands like Grubhub, Logitech, and Samsung. In 2018, the league became franchised, offering a select group of teams a permanent spot for $10 million. Top players became celebrities and content creators, earning record salaries. Luka, or Perks, Perkovic was paid more than $2 million in 2021 for Team Cloud9, and who Sword Art, Suchi, received a $6 million year contract in 2020, and he left the year after. Jordy, I want to bring you in here. Do you watch the League of Legends players? How familiar are you with this?
I don't watch it. I'm not familiar with it at all, but I know it's really popular. And what this represents is both these players looking out for each other and recognizing that they are making League of Legends, they're making all of the companies who are affiliated with these events a ton of money, and they're not seeing as much as they should, but also the feeder system to bring people up, which I thought was really interesting. And you see that in other union drives too. You see, I think it was the John Deere strike a couple years ago now at this point, where older union members were arguing to classify everyone together because they knew it would help younger workers earlier in their tenure, later on down the line. And that's really, really heartwarming. If that's how this is structured, that these people were looking for this amateur league, and they were fighting, people who were established fighting for that league to get them in that feeder system to eventually have careers of their own. That's really admirable, because I think they all recognize that's how they came up. And I think you need to see that type of solidarity across seniority in all of these types of union efforts.
Yeah, I'm sorry for getting these gamer tags wrong for Luka and Sword Art, but $2 million a year, $6 million a year. These folks are raking in a lot of money, but I think the framing, you said union, that's exactly what I thought. This is basically a union. They are workers. They're the people who are playing this game owned by Riot, making it relevant. And it seems to be a good example of the power of collective bargaining. It sounds to me that they think that these folks, Riot, are going to come to the table with LCS. So we'll see what happens there. Power to the gamers who are also workers. We're going to move on to something crazy. Makes me never want to get on a boat. Let's watch this.
This kid jumped off. Oh my God. Oh, bye-bye. Oh, that's it. And the buoy. And the buoy. Yo, this kid's gone, bro.
So what you saw there, Louisiana teen took a dip in the ocean off of a cruise ship in the Bahamas and hasn't been seen since. So this was a celebration that went bad. It was for high school graduate Cameron Robbins. Here's his photo. So reporting from TMZ on this, footage has surfaced showing 18-year-old Cameron Robbins, who just graduated from high school in Baton Rouge, swimming in the open seas at night near Athol Island last weekend, where he was on a sunset cruise with a bunch of his peers celebrating their achievement. He had a lifetime ahead of him, and he allegedly jumped in off of a dare. And as someone who spent the last 10 days on a bender with her friends in New York City, I have a bad habit of saying yes to every dare thrown at me, but dares have very serious, potentially fatal consequences. I think this just goes to show that things can get carried away very fast. So he appeared to have swam away from the life preserver ring that was in the water. And it was almost like he was trying to avoid something in the water with him. Folks are speculating about this online. Let's take a look. All right, so it appeared like a shark or a large fish was in the water with him, kind of swimming in the opposite direction. Who knows what happened there? Jordan, have you ever done something very silly off of a dare while potentially under the influences of legal but adult substances?
Not that I could think of. I haven't drank in years, so I don't think I would be in that situation. I also don't do aquatics, so it's a long list of no's for me. But it's tragic, and also it's stupid. It's so stupid, and there's just this wave of people doing incredibly dumb things as their friends film because they think it'll get them 15 minutes of TikTok virality and a slight amount of fame that is fleeting and will amount to nothing later in life. And in this case, potentially death. But we're seeing it all the time, and it's just the way social media has influenced and just ruined people's brains, especially in younger generations. And I'm not picking a fight with Gen Z. I mean, it's just the culture they were brought up in. I don't want to get into any sort of generational spat, but it doesn't have to be like this. And there are so many people who think that is a pathway to success. You see studies that show a large number, if not a majority of Gen Z, when polled, want to be influencers and content creators. That's not a viable career path for a lot of people. You see anomalies dominating your feeds, and you see a couple people making a ton of money, and you think, oh, I want that. It's just not realistic. You have a better chance being a musician. That this is also a notoriously difficult industry to break into. So I just feel bad for younger people who are so influenced that they're doing dumb things like this, potentially killing them because they want to go viral.
Yeah, the influencers that you see that are making a career off of this, I promise you, they didn't build their following off of risking their lives by jumping off of a cruise ship. So all we can really do is hope that they find him and hope that they find him alive. He's been missing for quite some time, but stranger things have happened. So let's hope for a miracle here and hope that everybody kind of learns a lesson from this. You can have reckless fun with your friends in a way that doesn't risk your life. And you should have fun for the sake of having fun, not for getting viral views on the internet. All right, we've got some more for you. Taylor Swift, watch this.
The amount of stress and time it took me to get Taylor Swift tickets, I will be getting an adult diaper because I'm not missing a minute of it. We'll be having 17 left over for anyone attending the Houston show.
That's a new level of dedication. It seems some Taylor Swift fans are so dedicated to not missing a single moment of her Eras tour that they've resorted to wearing adult diapers for the concert. They don't want to soil themselves at the stadium, but I mean, that's kind of the purpose of a diaper, is you soil yourself in a way that doesn't ruin your clothes. Let's watch some more.
Can you trap me? Biggest Eras tour
Ever. Jesus Christ.
So you just go
Well, I will not put
right
this
over. Why did you pick the most monstrous? Like, because on Forbes it said that it was the most durable or most absorbent. We didn't need it most absorbent. We needed most like
comfortable for 3 hours.
Most appropriate. Well, I figured I was most slimming. Okay.
All right, let me see it.
Friends help friends put their diapers on before the Eras Tour concert. This is not just like a one-off thing. Many people are doing it. Watch this. So obviously, not everyone was on board with this new idea. We've got some comments from TikTok. Quote, "The chafing is gonna be extreme," one user commented. Another quote, "If I can hold it on a flight from California to Hawaii, I can hold it for a Taylor Swift concert." Another TikTok user wrote that. More reporting from Insider, and perhaps this Reddit comment sums it up best from the Taylor Swift tour experience. Quote, "If she doesn't need a bathroom break, I don't. Only I'm pretty sure she takes bathroom breaks when she goes behind the stage to change her outfit." Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe Swifties diapered up too. But here's the thing. It seems that this is coming from a place of like, I spent so much money on this ticket that I need to get every dollar's worth of this experience. I don't know how I feel about those implications economically. We'll unpack in a second. But one pregnant TikTok user, she goes by Basic Meg. She said she was concerned, or she was considering adult diapers for her stop only because she's pregnant and she has to pee more frequently, like every 30 minutes, on top of having a bladder infection. So that makes sense. Here's reporting from Glossy. Baby and mom care brand Frida posted a TikTok video by influencer Bailey Jordan about what it was going to be like attending the Eras tour during the postpartum period, sharing a video wearing breast pump devices and a postpartum adult diaper. She said, quote, when your For You page is full of everyone's outfit for the Eras tour, but you're due June 1st and you have tickets on June 9th, so you'll be showing up wearing this. This is very wild. It might seem like a funny ha thing, but there's a stigma conversation happening about incontinence issues. It's not just like, oh yeah, let's go to the concert and not miss a single song. It's a little bit deeper than that. More reporting from Glossy. Quote, for people with incontinence issues, anxiety about long bathroom lines in public places is very real. Comments on several pregnancy, quote, Eras Tour fit check videos address the need to wear them to the 3-hour concert. Both regular TikTok users and celebrities have been speaking out to break the stigma about incontinence issues women face during pregnancy and the postpartum period. Shay Mitchell has posted on YouTube about needing to wear them while pregnant, while Chrissy Teigen has been candid about wearing them during her postpartum experience. Adult diapers were a $9 billion market as of 2019. According to Euromonitor data, an estimated half of all American women experience some level of urinary incontinence, with childbirth serving as a major risk factor. So yeah, Swifties are not the only ones who have ever worn diapers to events. We've heard of people wearing diapers when the ball drops on New Year's Eve. Jordy, what do you make of the diapers at the Eras tour?
Whatever people want to do to enjoy their concert, I say go for it. And I was confused why they were doing this, and I looked up her set list, and it's 45 songs. So that just respect right there. That is a colossal amount of work, time after time. So I had no idea the tour or the set list was that long, and it's a 3-hour show. I mean, good for her.
I just know it smells crazy in there. That's all we have. Jordan, you want to tell the people where to find your stuff?
Sure. I'm on Twitter at Jordan Uhl, and you can check out my podcast, The Insurgents, which Jessica has been a guest on multiple times on every major podcast platform.
All right, thanks for being with us, everybody. We've got to go, but the Young Turks are on after this. Have a good day.